She'd never played Top of the Pops, in fact she never played at all, but her cups of tea and her kind words of encouragement were an inspiration to those who did. Her name was Gladys Palmer, and her cellar had been home to some of Merseyside top bands for more than 20 years. Some of those bands went back to the old house to join Gladys in the making of this film. Her family have asked that we show it in her memory. So Gladys, this one's for you.
Gladys Palmer, the light of my life, first met in the late 70s.
First time I met Mrs. Palmer, actually I had met her before, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years.
Feels like 50. I remember seeing this middle-aged woman at the back with these glasses on, thinking, what is she doing? You know, on stage. Hang on a minute, what are you doing here?
Door slammed open at the top of the stairs and you just heard this.
Say that down!
I moved next to Gladys in 1990-91. Obviously, living next door to a legend put the price of the property up.
5th of May, 1977, the Clash were playing at Eric's. It was also the night that Ian McCulloch met Julian Cope and met, I met up with Wiley.
The first Teardrops was Mac on vocals, me on guitar, Paul Simpson on drums and boxes and whatever, and then Paul Simpson moved on to organ.
I was flicking through this magazine, DC comic. For no reason at all, in the middle of the storyline, a huge speech bubble appears over Central Park with a teardrop explodes written in.
I thought, what a brilliant name. That's got to be the best name I'd ever heard. I said, well, can I put a record out by your band on this label I'm starting? So I hadn't heard the music, and he agreed. And on that same journey, he said, look, Ian McCulloch's got a new group as well called Echo and the Bunnymen. Do you want to do a record with them? And although I didn't think it was quite as good a name, I thought, yeah, well, we may as well have them as well. And this is obviously without hearing the music.
One day I was walking along and I'd just been to see Per Ubu, and I'd slept on Manchester bus station floor that night, and I was epically inspired, so I was like really striding out. And there's this mad looking cartoon woman standing up on this embankment, and it was Gladys.
Well, Gladys has got so many qualities. She's got a basement. And at that time, you know, the late 70s, we all needed rehearsal places. No one had anywhere to rehearse and no money.
There was a shot on the back of Television's first album of them in a rehearsal space. And I know definitely in my head, and I'm sure in Julian's head, but in all our heads, the basement downstairs looked like that rehearsal space. And that's why I wanted a shot of the band playing in there on the inner sleeve of the first Bunnymen's album, because I wanted it to celebrate that. And so it did look totally cool to us. In our heads, it was completely cool. It was as cool as Television, and you couldn't get cooler than Television.
This became like an outpost for the wretches, you know, the ones who couldn't hack it in the city centre.
Yeah, well, I was a bit appalled at the basement first time I went down because there's no electricity. I think we had to run a cable down from upstairs.
It's about 13 foot by about 16 foot. And as soon as we got a Teardrops poster, the first thing we did was paste it into the corner.
It was cold and damp and dusty, but it was home.
The whole quality of the rehearsal changed. She used to charge us £1.50 to rehearse.
It was nothing, it was buttons, but there was always a massive argument at the end of every rehearsal because someone wouldn't have their 20 pence or 30 pence.
And we just got a very, very, very large table that was just big enough for the sheer weight of toast that we would be given in the subsequent months. You know, and in that way we were prepared for Shea Gladys.
Gladys!
Gary!
Gary was, I think he was a friend of Wiley's, and he had this huge quiff, which we hated.
Budgie, who later joined the Banshees, but at this point was in big in Japan, had taught Gary a beat.
First rehearsal we had, obviously I was only learning to play the drums then. I had no tuition whatsoever. All the guys in the band were pretty much the same. Julian couldn't sing, couldn't play bass.
Gary came up one night and he said, Budgie taught me a beat. If I can play it, can I be in? And I said, yeah, it's a good beat, of course you can.
Gladys is unique, I'd say, you know, in that she'd tolerate the likes of those mincing up and down her path without, you know, there were petitions about them coming around, the neighbours. You thought they were making the area look effeminate.
If she didn't like something, she'd come down, you know, have a little listen, just stand in the corner sort of and say, oh, that's nice, you know, or, you know, change that bit there, like, you know.
She'd come in and tell us which were singles. And she had weird taste.
She could get incredibly cross, she could blow her top, but at the same time, you could tell she loved it.
And she'd come down and she'd love everything if it had a good tune. So we could have, like, big farty synthesizers, all kind of ridiculousness going on. But if it had a good tune, which I could always slur out a good tune, yeah, she was an enthusiast of the same level as I was.
I remember later on when the Wild Swans rehearsed there, she used to come down and say, oh, I like that one, that one was nice, the one before last. But that one's rubbish.
She's a wonderful human being, she's everything a man could want. She's caring, beautiful, she used to have a stall selling slippers in a market. It's everything you dream of.
Bill released a single on Zoo for us called The Revolutionary Spirit. I think it was in 1981.
And I thought, this is, I mean, I thought it was totally brilliant. It was far better than the Bunnymen and the Teardrops.
The Teardrop Explodes definitely rehearsed here, as did Echo and the Bunnymen and the Wild Swans. But I've got no memory at all of Pete Wiley being here. I could be wrong.
If only they knew while they were in the basement that I was up here all the time. We used to be nice to sit out on the front porch, just looking at the world go by, and then they got some real horrible next-door neighbours. This Roy guy used to be in the farm, I think they were called. Group who had a hit once.
Roy's was always the last port of call. He was nearer to the motorway than anyone else, and obviously we needed some moral and spiritual advice from Gladys, who always used to come out to the tour bus and supply us with copious amounts of food and drink.
And good advice, and occasionally a song as we went. Greasy Fields, like up the road.
But I didn't know where it was. It was just like this place that, like this mysterious place that no one knew where it was, but like all these famous bands had practiced there.
Gladys liked it when bands were playing, and even if it was too loud, you know, she'd come down and start having a sing and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Always encouraged it.
We seemed to be going nowhere when we were just practicing in town and everything. As soon as we come here, and I'm not saying it honestly, but some sort of magic happened.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds dead like corny now, but it's true. Everything started to happen for us. Then we got a deal, and just as soon as we went in that basement.
For a new band to be able to get into the cellar, it's such a magic place, you know, it's almost, you know, touched by the hand of God, or touched by the hand of Gladys.
I would have recognised her at 200 yards away. I'd have seen Gladys and thought, oh my God, this Gladys, can I deal with this now?
I hadn't seen her for years, and I saw her in Liverpool. And she stood there and she said, Julian, it's me, do you remember me, Gladys? And I went, Gladys, it's like I've seen you yesterday. How could I possibly forget?
You can't sidestep somebody like Gladys. You just have to confront it. It's one of the things you've got to learn in life, to confront the Gladyses.
Hey!
I hear her voice, you know, in my sleep.
Tea, toast, tea. Get cracking, every one of you.
Gladys is the Mother Teresa. She's Mother Teresa Spice.
Save us a nice cup of tea there.
We'd have all just ended up back on the dole.
What other pensioner has had so much effect on the music scene as Gladys?
I'd have ended up back in that building site doing carpentry, I suppose. Julian would have been a teacher.
She'll be remembered standing in her garden, calling to me that first day.
Mr. Psycho will blow you away.
All the bands should get together and they should make a concept album and call it Gladys, and it should just be a photograph of her face on the cover.
She is the Timothy Leary, or the Allen Ginsberg of the Liverpool music scene.
the Toast generation.
She's the best rock and roller that I've met.
In the history of the Liverpool music scene, Gladys has got to be the godmother, hasn't she?
Not the godmother, more like the queen mother.
Queen mother, that's right,
That
Tommy.
little baby,
Queen
won't
mother
it? Yeah.
of Liverpool pop.
It all went wrong one Saturday night when we were watching TV. Elvis got angry and shot at the screen. Instead they got you and it's just a little you and me. Little bit of help from Elvis. It's just a little you and me. A little bit of help from Elvis.
Toast, tea, get cracking, every one of you.